Hey, everybody, welcome back. And I hope you're ready for another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live that I do every Monday at noon. And today's no exception. Today, I'm going to share with you the number one lesson that every freight broker and freight agent needs to learn, right? This is the number one lesson you need to learn about growing a successful freight brokerage or freight agency. So stay tuned for that. We're going to dive into that a little bit more. For those of you that are catching me on replay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. Hit me up in the comments with hashtag replay. If you're joining me live, awesome. Thank you for being here. Let me do a quick sound check. I had a couple little tech issues as usual, seems like lately. Make sure you guys can hear me. Is the audio clear? Can you hear me properly? Do we have good audio going on here? Is there, do we have good video? Let me know in the comments. Hit me up. Let me know for sure. Give me a quick check on tech check here. And hit me up in the comments also. Let me know the city and state that you're logging in from. I'll give you a quick shout out. That would be great. For example, we have, who do we got here today? We got Desiree from Chicago. We've got Army Cove from Green Cove Springs. I don't know where that is, but Florida. We got Jeremy coming to us from Charlotte, North Carolina via Dubai. So he's in Dubai, but he's from Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome. We got Frederick from South Florida. We got Miguel from New Jersey, Alvaro from El Paso, Texas. We've got Eduardo from Las Vegas, Nevada. Did we get that sound check? Is everything good? Okay, yeah, good. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for that. We have Eduardo from Las Vegas, Kenneth from Hemet, California, Paul Spates from Frisco, Texas. That's a name I see in here all the time. Welcome back, Paul. We have Mark from Wappinger Falls, New York. We have Kimberly from Columbus, Ohio, Amrit from Brampton, Ontario. So now we're in 3 countries, Dubai, Canada, and the US already, okay? So awesome. Nolan from Abilene, Texas. We've always got a bunch of people from Texas here. James from Arizona. Val from Santa Clarita, California. Brittany from Odenton, Maryland. Brown Boy from Orlando, Florida. Juliana. We've got Jessica LeCount from Pocahontas, Arkansas. We got a whole bunch of people. We got Corey Miller from Cedar City, Utah. We've got Patty Morgert from Rock Springs, Wyoming. We got people from all over the country, as you can see. And not only that, but even other parts of the world. So I'm always excited to do these live because I love to see where you guys log in from. I hope you guys are ready for another very powerful and important Freight Broker Bootcamp Live. But before we do that, who wants a shirt? Who wants a Freightpreneur shirt? I'm going to give one away. I've been doing it almost every week. Freightpreneur, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. I'm going to give one of these away, okay? If you want it, here's all you have to do. Listen carefully. Listen very carefully. All you have to do is share the stream, all right? Click the share button. First, hit the like button, then hit the share button, whether you're on Facebook or whether you're on YouTube, and share it on your social media following, right? Share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook, share it on Twitter, share it on LinkedIn, share it wherever you want to share it, but share the stream. And for everybody that shares the stream, and then you come back into the comments here and you type in hashtag shared, okay? Hashtag shared. This is an honor system, but I'm counting on you to be honorable here because I can't check everybody. I'm gonna give away one of these shirts, okay? These have been super popular. Freightpreneur, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand, okay? And no, I don't sell these. These are just a giveaway that I've done to kind of, give back to you guys for everybody who joins these Freight Broker Bootcamp Lives every Monday and who's a part of my community. So if you want a chance to win this shirt, share the stream, come back in and type hashtag shared. I'm going to give the shirt away after we go through the lesson, but before the Q&A. And yes, I am going to do Q&A at the end of this. I'm going to try to answer any questions you guys have. I'll stay on here as long as I can. But yeah, ultimately, so first we're going to go over the number one lesson that every freight broker and freight agent needs to learn. Then we're going to do the giveaway. Then we're going to do the Q&A, okay? So we got a bunch of people that are joining us live. Let's see what we got here. Okay, awesome. Cool. All right, very cool. All right, so we got a bunch of people that have shared it. Again, this is the honor system, guys. All you have to do to share it is just, if you're on Facebook, just hit share and then share it on your feed. Share it on your news feed, okay? On your Facebook feed. If you're on LinkedIn, wherever you are, just share the stream. My goal is just to make people aware that I do these free trainings every Monday at noon. That's how a lot of people have heard about me, either through the YouTube stream or the Facebook stream or you sharing my stream. So I thank you very much for doing that. And as a reward, I'm going to give away a shirt. Okay. And I will mail that out to you, but it is, I have to be honest with you, it's US only. I can't be shipping this thing to Dubai as much as I'd love to, or all over the globe here, because the shipping cost would just be worth more than the shirt, which doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. So you got to be in the US in order to win the prize. Okay. At least for this, I'll try to come up with some other prizes that maybe I can give away. Maybe in the future, I'll give away some more cash. I've given away cash before, $50, $100. I think one time, a long time ago, I even gave away $500, but ultimately today we're going to give away the shirt. All right. So are you guys ready? You guys ready to dive in to the number one lesson that every freight broker and freight agent need to learn? Now, this may not be what you're expecting, but it is critically important to grow a successful business. Without understanding this basic concept, you are going to chase your tail, you are going to struggle, and you are going to eventually fail. Okay? I've seen it too many times before. You have to understand the number one lesson is very simple. It is cheaper to keep an established customer, an existing customer, than it is to go out and get a new customer. So listen, think about that for a second. It's cheaper to keep a good customer than it is to go out and acquire a new customer. Now you have to let that sink in for a minute, because in most startups, the focus is customer acquisition, as it should be. That's a very, very important part of growing a business, because without customers, without shippers, without people willing to pay you, you're going nowhere fast. You're going to go broke. Okay. But there's a caveat to that. In the freight business, in the logistics business, in the transportation business, the key to success is to have what I call a very high LTV. Now, LTV stands for lifetime value. All right. Now, I'm not going to get too far down in the weeds today, but think about this. If you have a customer that ships, let's say they ship one load a week with you. Okay, just one load a week, a small customer, one load a week. And the average value of that load it's a full truckload. Let's say the average value is $1,500. Okay. Now, I'm not very good at math and it's not an exact science, but I can tell you that my handy dandy calculator right here says that per year, 1,500 times 52 equals $78,000. Okay. So that's $78,000 in gross per year from one small customer at $1,500 per load, doing one load per week. Now, how many years do you expect that you will be able to have a customer? Now, we had customers, some of the customers we had that we did business with in my brokerage, we had done business with for over a decade. We had been doing business with them for over 10 years. So let's take that number. And if you multiply that $778,000 times 10, all of a sudden, now we've got a lifetime value for that little shipper doing one load a week of $780,000. That's the power of lifetime value. So what you have to understand, if all I did was go out and acquire that customer and move one shipment, I would have made gross revenue of $1,500. And let's say, just for easy math, it was 20% margin. I would have made $300, right? But if I'm able to retain that customer and build that lifetime value and have a long-term relationship with them, I can convert even a small customer from $300 in profit. So let's apply that same 20% to the 780, and I can convert that into $156,000 in profit that goes right in the Hip National Bank. Okay. So that's the power of customer retention. You cannot build a successful freight brokerage in this business. You cannot build a successful freight brokerage unless you understand and are able to retain clients. Customer retention is equally, if not more important, probably more important than customer acquisition. They're the yin and yang. They go together. You have to have both. But one of the mistakes that I see from brokers and agents, that I've encountered over the last 15, 20 years is that all of their focus is on getting the customer, not on keeping the customer, right? So they'll chase that customer for weeks or months to get the first load. They get the first load, and then all of a sudden they just expect that every day or every week the shipments are going to come over. And it doesn't work that way. You have to understand, it's all about relationship. You have to develop, you have to continue to enhance that relationship. You have to continue to build trust. You have to continue to sell through the process for as long as you're doing business with that client. Now, some clients are just going to be very easy. They're going to, you're going to get the first shipment, and then next week you're going to get the next shipment, and the next week you're going to get the next shipment. And as long as you don't screw up and make a big boo-boo or a big mistake or have egg on your face, you're probably going to continue to keep getting shipments unless something disrupts that. But with most clients, you're going to have to dig in, and you're going to have to figure out a way to continue to generate revenue and to continue that dialogue and to continue to get new lanes and do new quotes and new opportunities and bring new value and enhance the relationship and expand the relationships within that organization. So the lesson that I want you to understand that I think is critically important and completely and totally misunderstood in this industry is this: it's cheaper to keep an existing customer than it is to go out and acquire a new customer. Because think about it. In order to acquire a new customer, you might have to make 50, 100, 200 phone calls. I don't know. It depends upon you. It depends upon your niche. It depends upon your experience and your skills. But ultimately, you have to spend hours and hours and hours and days and days and days to acquire a new customer. Let's just do the math, right? Let's say, for example, you're able to acquire 4 new customers a month, 1 a week, just a hypothetical, right? A small number, not a big number, but you were able to acquire 4 new customers, not a week, a month, 1 new customer a week, 4 new customers a month. Okay. And let's say, for example, that you, as a salesperson or as the owner of the company, let's say your cost basis of all your sales and marketing costs, which is your salary, any of your sales and marketing expenses, so on and so forth. Let's just say your loaded cost is $4,000, right? Including everything. That's I'm just throwing kind of a rough number out there. If you take that $4,000 and you divide it by 4 customers in any given month, right? That means that it cost you $1,000 to acquire that customer. All right, so follow me here. This is just a hypothetical, but I want you to understand where I'm going with this and why it's so important. If it costs you $1,000 to acquire a customer, which is very low customer acquisition cost, okay? Startups can achieve that, but as you get bigger, the customer acquisition cost can go up. So if you cost you $1,000 to generate a client, and you went out and got a client, and on that first load, you made $150 on that first load, right? You still lost $850 up to this point. So you're going to have to, in order for $1,000 client at $150 a load to become profitable, you're going to have to move 7 loads. But here's the good news. You move those first 7 loads, and now your cost of acquisition for that customer is paid. So now you've paid your dues, you've invested up front to get the customer, you've now generated enough revenue to cover the cost of acquisition for that customer, and now everything from here on out begins to become profit. Okay. So it's important that you understand these fundamentals, right? I talked about a couple of things. I talked about customer acquisition cost. Okay, we talked about, kind of lifetime value, which is, I gave you that simple math equation of kind of starting to figure out lifetime value. For startups, it's very hard to understand lifetime value because you don't have a history of what your average transaction value or the frequency or the lifespan. But ultimately, you can give yourself a little bit of a baseline for that so you can understand. And that's kind of what my goal behind this was. But the number one goal of this training is for you to understand that it is cheaper to keep an existing customer than it is to acquire a new one. So you have to spend as much time trying to retain your clients and to build those clients and to grow those clients as you do acquiring new customers. You can't ignore those customers because I see it all the time. Salespeople get in this mindset. Everything is about customer acquisition. And I understand it's critically important. You have to be able to acquire new customers. But when you bring a new customer on, you have to have a process for onboarding that customer and going from 1 load to 2 load to 5 loads to 10 loads. And you have to learn to develop, enhance that relationship so that you can continue to evolve and develop and enhance and grow your revenue within those clients. Because here's an old adage: if you're not growing, you're dying. And what I mean by that is your business, if it's not growing, it's going backwards. There is no homeostasis. It means it never stays the same. Your business is more profitable today than it was yesterday, or it's less profitable today than it was yesterday. Okay? You are healthier today than you were yesterday, or you're not as healthy, right? You're fatter today than you were yesterday. Sometimes that's me, but ultimately nothing stays the same. And I want you to understand that applies to your existing customers. You either have a better relationship with them today than you did yesterday, or you don't. And that relationship is going to be the crux and is going to be the key component to you having a strong lifetime value of that client. And like I showed you that example, converting a small once a week client into hundreds of thousands of dollars in profit over the lifetime of that client. So retention is the key. All right. That's what I want you to take away today. Customer retention is very important. You have to be very intentional about it. It's not something that happens on accident. And it's a huge mistake that I see, freight brokers and freight agents making. They get that first shipment and then they just keep moving along and they forget all about that customer who they just made all kinds of promises to. And maybe they did a great job delivering the first load, but they have no plan to take that customer from 1 load to 10 loads to 100 loads. And you need to be intentional about that. Otherwise, another broker, another transportation provider, another carrier, someone's going to pick your pocket, get that customer, and all of a sudden you're going to lose clients because I showed you the example of $1,000 acquisition cost. You got to move 6 or 7 loads at $150 a piece just to pay for the cost of that one customer. But after you do that, you're in the green, you're in the black, you're making money. And from there on out, you can start making profits. So I hope that makes sense. I hope you understand that. If this made sense and you want to hear more, if you're interested in becoming a freight broker or a freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We've trained over 8,000 students, been in business over a decade, and we have a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. It's ironclad. Any reason you're not happy, just shoot us an email and we'll refund your money in the first 60 days. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're going to jump into some Q&A. But before that, I'm going to give away the shirt. Okay, like I promised, I'm going to give away the shirt. Freightpreneur, someone who solves problems you don't know you have in ways you can't understand. Okay, I'm going to give this away. But in order to qualify, you've got to share this stream. First, hit the like button, and then share the stream. You absolutely have to share the stream. Come back in here into the, Sorry, I lost you there for a second. My bad. If you want to qualify, become part of the drawing for this shirt, make sure you hit #shared. Sorry about the technical glitch there. Let me make sure that we've got the right audio and the right camera and everything's good. Okay, so I think everything's good. Type in the chat box #shared. I'm going to give you 1 more minute, and then I'm going to give away the shirt, and then we're going to do live Q&A. So hold your questions until I'm ready. I want to just see the shares right now. I don't want to see the questions. Wait till I give this away, and then we're going to do questions, okay? And we'll dive into some Q&A. So let me grab a quick drink while you guys are making your final shares on Facebook and Instagram. Where are you guys sharing this? Let me know where you're sharing it. Are you sharing it on Facebook? Hit me up back and let me know. Those of you that shared it, Type in the chat box. Let me know. Did you share it on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube? Where'd you share it? All right, we got a bunch of people sharing it. That's awesome. Excuse me one second. I'm about to sneeze. And I hope this doesn't happen like normal because they usually come in 3 or 4 in a row. Oh, I think I might have got it. All right. All right, lots of people sharing it on Facebook. All right, cool. So we got a whole bunch of people that have shared the stream. I'm going to give it away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll through the feed here where I can see everybody's comments. I'm going to randomly pick one with my eyes closed. And then at that point, we're going to give it away. Okay, so I'm giving it away now. Ready? Here we go. Make sure we land on somebody. All right, here it is. CJ Perrin. CJ Perrin. You are the winner of the Freightpreneur t-shirt. I'm going to give it away to you. I'm going to mail it out to you today. Or not today. It'll go out this week. I don't want to say today. It'll go out this week. All you have to do is go to the Facebook page. Go to my Freight Broker Bootcamp Facebook page. Message me with your full name, your full address, and your size. Okay, so I have limited sizes. We'll go back and forth. I think I have some double X's. I think I have some mediums. I might have a large. I'm not quite sure. But send me a message through Facebook with your full name, your address, and your size, and I will get that shirt shipped off to you this week. And again, I hope you guys are still enjoying the giveaway. I'm going to try to come up with some new ideas. I've had really, really good feedback from everybody. Truly appreciate you guys being here. For those of you that got to cut out early, again, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker or freight agent, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. And, if you're unhappy, then we absolutely will give your money back. We have like a 96 or 97% customer satisfaction. So it's pretty rare for that to happen, but it does from time to time, and we're more than willing to do it. We're more than willing to put our money where our mouth is. For those of you that have seen some of the recent, success stories of past students like Yogi Goswami, who's built a multi-7-figure freight brokerage, and Monica Gonzalez, who's a freight agent who made over $300,000 last year, and Elio Longario, who's a brand new startup, who was a student of Freight Broker Bootcamp we interviewed recently, who did over $7,000 in profit his first week. And there's just a whole, Eloy Lozano, who was another agent. It was a seven-figure agent earning over 6 figures per year. So we've had a lot of students that I've interviewed on different Freight Broker Bootcamp lives. Hopefully you will be one of those next stories. And again, I truly appreciate you being here. So listen, let's do some Q&A. But CJ, make sure you get on the Facebook, and I want you to send me your full name, address, and size today. Okay? All right. Type your questions. Hit me up for questions. Hit me up with some questions here. All right. So here's a question from Martin Unger. Is the rate for this a monthly bill or a one-time fee? Freight Broker Bootcamp is a one-time fee. If you want to sign up as a gold member, it's $185 one time. Okay. If you want to sign up as a platinum lifetime member with lifetime access, lifetime support, it's $389 one time. No recurring charges. Okay. That's it. We keep it super simple. The Freight Broker Bootcamp product has no recurring charges. All right. Good question. Thanks. Yeah, Garth, I'll bet that would be a good giveaway. All right. How long should I take to give a quote once requested? All right. So here's the thing. There have been many studies that have been done based upon the responsiveness of service providers to provide follow-up information that's critical to a sale. And what they say across the boards, all of those studies, is the quicker you can respond to a customer's needs or request, the more likely you are to get a client in every industry. Okay. And in the freight industry, it's no different. So my suggestion is, if a customer makes a request for a rate, you're on the phone with them, or they send you an email, or whatever the case may be, and they're looking for a rate, you are going to want to turn that rate around as quickly as you can. Now, does that mean 2 minutes? Does that mean 5 minutes? Does that mean an hour? Here's what I'm going to tell you. speed is important because people that are in the logistics business, transportation managers, logistics managers, freight managers, warehouse managers, shipping managers, they're juggling a lot of balls. And what you got to understand is they've got all these balls. They want to set each one of these balls down. And each one of these balls is a load that they've got to find somebody to cover, right? So they got to outsource it. So the quicker they can set down that ball, the easier it is to juggle everything because new balls are getting thrown at them all the time. So you've got to turn quotes around quickly. I would tell you that you really want to turn quotes around ideally within an hour. An hour to 2 hours is ideal, right? If you can do it faster, you're just going to increase the likelihood of getting that customer. Because what customers are looking for is experts. They're looking for people that are educated, highly educated in their needs, right? So for example, if you specialize in reefers, right, and refrigerated freight, then they want somebody that understands the capacity and the rates and things that are going on in that space so that they can be very responsive to their needs. If you're in heavy haul, if you're doing produce, you need to become educated. And part of that education is rates and how to find rates out. Rates just aren't that challenging. Most people make too big of a deal out of it. Ultimately, the best source of rates is to talk to a carrier that either runs that lane regularly or has got their truck posted and wants to run that lane today. Ultimately, that's the best spot market rate quote you can get to understand your costs so you can mark it up. Of course, there are other tools, but you need to be responsive. What I'm going to tell you is the more you can compress the time frame between the request to giving them a good, solid quote. You don't want to focus on speed over quality. You want the quote to be solid, meaning you want a good rate that you'll be able to service, that is going to be competitive, that's going to allow you to make money. So you've got to figure all that out. But ultimately, the quicker you can respond, the higher the probability that you are going to get that customer. Good question. Oops, I think I hit the wrong one here. Okay, so let me scroll. I missed a bunch of questions here. Hold on. All right, so let me scroll through here. Okay, Tiffany asked a question. When you say customer acquisition costs, do we pay shippers? No, as a freight broker, freight agent, you don't pay shippers. What I mean by customer acquisition cost, the cost for you internally to acquire that customer. So you've got operational costs to run your business. You've got cost if you're paying salespeople or you're paying agents or you're paying overhead or you're paying for marketing, you have overhead. So let's just say, just for easy math, right? I'm going to say, for example, you're a freight broker and you have a salesperson who costs you $3,000 a month. Okay. That's his overall cost. If he were to acquire three customers, this is just easy math. If he were to acquire 3 customers in a month, you divide $3,000 divided by 3 customers, which equals $1,000 per customer. Now you're not paying the customer, but you're paying for the customer with your overhead and your cost of doing business in order to acquire that customer. So it's called CAC, C-A-C, customer acquisition cost. You need to understand your customer acquisition cost. I'm going to tell you that 90+% of freight brokers out there have no clue what their customer acquisition cost is. No clue. So just by understanding that customer acquisition cost, you're going to have a better chance of becoming profitable because, again, if your cost of acquisition for a customer is $1,000 and you make $150 a load on average, or let's say it's easy math, $200 a load on average, you've got to move 5 loads in order to pay for that customer acquisition cost. And after that, you're now profitable. And then when you start factoring in the lifetime value of that client, which is the frequency that they ship with you times the average cost or the average bill that they're doing, or profit, however you want to measure it, over a period of time, whether that be a year or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, like some of the clients we did business with, that's the lifetime value. So I know I ran through it pretty quick, but that's a good clarifying question. Thanks, Tiffany. So Juliana asked, after shippers sign broker shipper agreement, do you still have to have them sign a credit application? If your broker carrier or your broker shipper agreement has the terms of everything, and you probably don't. As long as you're gonna need like their DUNS number, probably their DNB number. You're probably going to need a couple things, but yeah, probably not. You'll probably have everything you need in order to run credit from there. You probably won't need to have a credit application, right? If they've already signed a broker shipper agreement with you, then you probably don't need it. You'll probably be able to run credit with the information you have from there. Michelle, I don't understand the question. Try to clarify for me in another thread, and I'll try to answer it. All right, so here's a question from Jessica LeCount. What is a book of business? Okay, a book of business, you'll hear this referred to a lot with companies that hire agents. Okay, so a book of business is a customer base that you as a broker or an agent do business with, not just leads, not just prospects. These are customers that actually ship with you on a regular basis. So these are customers that are paying you. A book of business might be something like you have 10 shippers that ship with you on a monthly basis. And, the average shipper does 10 loads a month with you, right? Which is 100 loads. And the average profit per load is $200, right? So again, math is not an exact science. We've got 10 shippers times 10 loads in a month on average, times $200 in profit. That didn't make sense. 10 times 10 times 200. That's $20,000 in profit. So that would be a book of business. A book of business is an established customer base that you are currently doing business with. Now, you'll hear it in the context of freight agents a lot, because the top freight brokerage companies out there that hire freight agents are typically looking for experienced agents who have a book of business. Now, those are the top, let's call it the top 20 brokers that hire agents. There's a whole bunch of smaller brokers out there that are doing maybe $1 to $5 million in sales, have been in business for anywhere from a year to maybe a decade, and are looking to grow and are willing to hire agents without a book of business, as long as you can sell yourself, as long as you show you've been trained, you have some, experience being trained and not necessarily working in the field, but you've been trained, and that you have what they're looking for in regards to a potential partner to go out and help them grow their business in an agent model. So yeah, that's what you're referring to when you talk about a book of business. It's an established customer base that is paying you as a freight broker or freight agent. And I just kind of gave you the math on how that might work. That was just an example, of course. Good question, Jessica. Brown Boy, I answered that question. No, you don't have to pay for customers, but there's a cost to acquire a customer. Your internal sales and marketing cost is what your customer acquisition cost is. Okay. So if you're paying yourself $3,000 a month and you acquire 3 customers, then your average cost of acquisition for those 3 customers is about $1,000 a piece. I've walked through that a bunch of times now. Michelle Portwood asked, what's the best way to determine a rate because last year's rates are skewed? Yeah, for sure. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you three tools to use for rating. One is use the DAT and Internet Truck Stop rating tools, but they are not the end all be all. You cannot do a freight quote just based on that data. That's going to give you a little bit of a baseline of what historically and sometimes hysterically moves in the freight industry for any given type of equipment between any given lane. But that's not enough data to do a freight quote. What you need to do is you need to contact some carriers, either carriers that have had their trucks posted in those lanes already actively looking for loads today, or carriers that have posted those lanes previously in some sort of a lane history, right? So if it's Buffalo to Atlanta vans, then I would search the last 90 days of carriers that have posted their trucks between Buffalo and Atlanta, and I'd see who posted their trucks most frequently. If they posted 1 truck a day or 2 trucks a day or 4 or 5 trucks a week, all of a sudden I'm going to call that carrier because I know they have trucks here regularly, and I'm going to start working out and negotiating rates with them because they run that lane all the time. They know the going rate. and they're going to be looking for loads out of their regulars. So that's the type of person you're going to call. The other thing you can do is you can post a load and take calls on it. I don't recommend that, although it is a way to get true spot market if there's not a lot of other data. Okay. And then once you understand what your cost basis is, let's say, for example, that Buffalo to Atlanta, let's say I know it's going to cost me hypothetically $1,300 to pay a truck to go from Buffalo to Atlanta. I'm going to mark up, I'm going to add my margin on top of it, maybe somewhere between $150 and $250, depending upon, capacity, depending upon the client, depending upon, a lot of variables. And then at that point, let's say it's an average of $200. I'm going to provide them an all-in rate of $1,500. And that's the cost to the carrier, or that's the cost to the shipper, I should say. And then from there, I've got carriers that I've already done due diligence with. I've already done my rate due diligence. So if I do get that shipment and I have at least a couple days lead time, I should not have a problem covering that load and making a couple $100 on that one load. Okay, so I hope that helps. All right. Jeez. It scrolled through here. Okay. Yeah, Garfa asks, have you ever heard of a broker that just deals with moving vehicles? And if so, what would be a good way to do it? Yeah, there's auto brokers that are, that are moving individual vehicles. It's not my favorite business model because there's no lifetime value. There's no recurring, right? So when you move like a snowbird, someone that lives in the Northeast who moves down to Florida or Arizona or Texas for the winter, right? And then they move back up in the summer, a lot of times they're going to want to move their car and they're not going to fly it. So they need somebody to haul the car up and haul the car back. The challenge is to have a lifetime value. The number one, it's going to be very hard to get recurring business. Number two, the lifetime value is very, very low. And number three, you're going to be constantly on that customer acquisition binge, right? So you're never going to be able to get ahead of the hamster wheel. So there are people that make money doing, moving cars and trucks and auto hauling, right? That sort of thing as a broker. It's not my favorite, but if you're good at generating leads of people that are interested in moving their cars, right? And their cars and trucks, then more power to it. You can broker those the same way as you can broker any other load. But I prefer more commercial clients, right? Customers that are manufacturing, distributing, importers, exporters. Let's see. Anthony has a question. I'm an authorized freight broker, but lack experience. Is it a conflict of interest for me to work for another brokerage as an agent? Okay. So I don't think it's a conflict of interest as long as you disclose it to the brokerage that you are an agent for. Now, they may have an issue with it, but I don't. As long as you are willing to disclose it and you were not going to see, my agents were always exclusive. So you couldn't run freight through a competitor. So it's not like you're going to be able to broker some loads through yours and some loads through my brokerage, right? We were exclusive for any of the services we offered. We were exclusive. But I wouldn't, if you had disclosed it, I think that some people might be willing to work with you on that. But if you try to hide it and then they find out, now there's no trust and they're probably not going to ever do business with you, right? And that's going to build a bad reputation and just bad all around, right? So, but as a freight broker, if you want to be an agent, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with starting out as an agent. You probably should have started there before you went out and spent all that money, getting your authority and getting your bond and doing all that. But ultimately, if you want to be an agent, be an agent. But I would just be very transparent and disclose that information to whoever you were going to work with, because it's just good business. The $64,000 question. How do I know my niche? If my niche is a successful market, you don't. And it may be successful for some and not for others. You need to do your research. We talk about how to determine, There's 4 different ways to determine your niche, right? You can do it by industry, you can do it by equipment type, you can do it by geography, or you can do a hybrid of those, right? So developing a niche takes a little bit of time. You've got to do some due diligence. You have to do some research. There's no way around that, right? You don't want to be the jack of all trades, master of none. I promise you, that's a surefire way to fail, particularly as a startup freight broker. All right. So yeah, developing your niche is important. You won't know other than if you do your due diligence. If you see other brokers and other agents doing well in a niche, right? For example, produce, that there is going to be demand for trucks in the produce industry. It's an industry that it's a consumable, right? It's a perishable good, goods. They need to move that product very quickly. If they don't move it, then they lose a ton of money, right? So that's why brokers are able to do well in that industry. That's just one example of the niche. Now you may add another component to that, like you may only do a certain geography, or you may only do a certain type of produce, but ultimately you're going to have to do some research and then test your niche. That's the only way to tell if it's truly going to be successful. There's no guarantees. All right, I'm scrolling through. So Armando Barrios asks, do you have to create a website before contacting shippers? No, you don't have to, but it is a good idea. And here's why. When you contact somebody on the phone or by email or face-to-face, one of the first things they're going to do is they're going to go online and search for you. There's 2 places they're going to go. Okay. What I found, there's 2 places that shippers are going to go to search for you to determine if you are credible and viable. One is Google. Google knows everything. They're going to go on there. They're going to search for your name. They're going to search for your company name. And if they don't find anything online, the probability is they're probably not going to do business with you because you don't have the basic level of credibility that's needed in order for them to add you as a vendor. Okay. Especially if it's a cold call. The other place they're going to go is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is the world's largest professional network. It's kind of like Facebook but for businesses. If you're not familiar with it, you definitely need to get a LinkedIn account. It's free. You can sign up, create a profile. That's the second place they're going to look for you. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, then that's also not going to add a whole lot of credibility or a whole lot of trust, right? You're not going to be able to build rapport. You're not going to be able to get past that basic hurdle, which is the fear that shippers have in doing business with a new vendor, right? So I think those 2 things are important. They are not a must, but they are a really good idea. Now, as a part of Freight Broker Bootcamp, if you become a Freight Broker Bootcamp member, we provide you website templates and an entire process on how you can get your website set up for, sometimes you can get it set up for under $50, but definitely under a couple $100 using our website templates and the process that we have. We do not develop the site for you, but we've got some website templates and we teach you how to get your website set up very cost effectively. And that's just one of the perks and benefits of being a member of Freight Broker Bootcamp. Okay. So if you're curious about that, you can definitely check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. What should you take into consideration when quoting a rate you're trying to give in an hour? There's only a couple of variables. What is the cost it's going to cost to pay a truck to go from point A to point B? That's number one. That's the most important thing you need to understand. What is the cost to go from point A to point B? What will you have to pay a truck? The second thing that you're going to want to look at is what is the capacity, meaning that lane. Are trucks very tight? Is there more loads than there are trucks, or are there more trucks than there are loads, or is it kind of even, right? And it's slightly up and down. So that load to truck ratio is the other thing you want to understand, okay? Those are the 2 biggest variables that you want to understand when providing a freight quote. What is the cost to move a truck from point A to point B? What is the load to truck ratio? The other thing you may want to consider is fuel on the rise or is fuel on the decline? Those are two things you want to look at as well, or that other variable. If fuel is on the decline, then those rates are probably going to be fairly stable. If fuel is on the incline, those rates may trend up over the next week or two. Okay, so those are just a few things you might want to consider when you're providing a freight quote, whether that be in 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days. So, Joe, the program Freight Broker Bootcamp is an online, go at your own pace freight broker training course. Okay. It's not instructor led. It has lessons, it has articles, it has videos, it has contracts, it has forums, it has websites, it has A to Z what you're looking for as a startup to get the ball rolling, get your business up and running either as a freight broker or a freight agent. Okay. And help you to start getting your first few customers and start getting some positive cash flow. That's what Freight Broker Bootcamp is designed to do. Very cost effectively. We're well known to be the most comprehensive and cost effective online freight broker training program. So again, it's an online course that over 8,000 students have went through, who many of them have went on to build 6 or 7 figure, or some of them even 8 figure freight brokerages. So plus we offer a 60-day money back guarantee. So it's hard to lose. All right, so I'm scrolling through the questions. All right, Tiffany, how much time should I dedicate while developing a freight broker business? As much time as you possibly can. I can't say it any other way. If you want to build a successful business and you're working a full-time job and you want to try to do this part-time, it's going to be harder than if you can dedicate full-time. So full-time effort is the best. Part-time effort, significant part-time effort is second best. But if you're going to try to do this in your spare time as a hobby, I wouldn't waste your time. Okay. So when I started my freight brokerage, I worked, it wasn't I was very serious about building the business. That's why we ended up growing it to about 80 million in sales before I sold the company. But ultimately, startups, it's not unusual for any startups in any industry to work 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, depending upon the type of business they're in, how dedicated they are, how serious they are, how much they have invested in the business, right? Because initially you want to recover your initial investment as quickly as you can and then start making positive cash flow so you can start growing the business. So I'd say the answer is as much time as you possibly can. But if you're going to try to do this in your spare time as a hobby type business, this is not a good side hustle, okay? It's not like having a blog or affiliate marketing. It's different, right? Because you actually have to go out and get customers. You have to get carriers. You have to bill. You have to collect. There's some complexity to it. So to do it as a side hustle, I wouldn't say it's a good side hustle. Yes, CJ, send your information through my Freight Broker Bootcamp page through the messengers. Just send me a message with your full name, address, and your size. Desiree, super hard to try to explain that. I said, wait. What type of home? Okay. So there's 4 types of niches. I've explained this to you. They're either by industry, by equipment, by geography, or a hybrid. Those are the 4 areas that you have to figure out, right? So that's the type of homework you're going to dig into, right? It's not super complex, particularly considering there are thousands of trucking companies, thousands of freight brokers out there that you can model, as well as an entire training program that's going to help you go through that process. All right, so I'm scrolling. Let me just find a few more questions. This is a good question, Jose. So I want to answer this. Once you've provided the rate and the shipper accepts, are you the only broker they gave this load to, or are there other brokers with the same load? Okay, so the smart brokers and smart agents don't accept freight that's also being worked by other brokers. It's a waste of time. It's what I call jump ball freight. They're going to go out and give the load to 3 or 4 or 5 brokers, and whoever covers it first gets the load. I don't work that way. I don't waste my time. I've always taught everybody who worked within my organization to not waste their time on that type of freight, because what's going to happen is you're going to spend a lot of time and energy trying to cover that load. And if you don't cover it first and somebody else covers it, and then you finally cover it, but you call the shipper and it's already been covered, all that time was for nothing. You need to focus on lanes and freight that is dedicated to you. So you need to make that clear, or it needs to be clear from the shipper that this is a dedicated load only to you. There's no other brokers working it, no other carriers working it, nobody else on this load. It's dedicated freight. Okay. Now that doesn't mean you're going to get that lane every time it comes up. That's your goal, right? Every time that lane that you quoted comes up from the shipper, you want to get every one of those loads. But when they tender a load to you, it should be a dedicated load specific to you and nobody else is working it. Okay. The telltale way to figure that out is that if the shipper sends you the full and complete address, contact information for the pick, the PO numbers, appointment times, all that, if they send you all those details with an actual load tender, that typically means that that load is dedicated to you. But if they send you a city and state for pickup and a city and state for delivery, and they give you a rate and that's it, that a lot of times is something that's going to be what I call jump ball freight. They're going to put that out to a bunch of brokers. And then when whoever covers it first, they're going to give the full and complete information to. And I don't believe in that. I think shippers that work that way are a joke. And I think the brokers that try to chase that type of freight are wasting their time. Sorry I had to be so definitive, but that's just the way it is. I hate jump ball freight. It's a complete waste of everybody's time, including the shippers. The shipper thinks they're doing good by their business, but they're not. All they're doing is increasing their rates and decreasing their service. And that's a whole other conversation. So Fausto asks, he needs help quoting a 1-pick 3-drop load. So a 1-pick 1-drop load versus a 1-pick 3-drop loads. Here's the difference. So 1-pick and 1-drop is very simple, right? There's not a lot of complexity to it. You've got the miles between point A and point B. You have to figure out the cost for those miles. Now, when you have 1-pick 3-drops, you got to figure out, for example, you have to figure out the inline miles from the first pickup to the first drop to the second drop to the third drop. There may be all kinds of weird mileage in there, right? So you have to figure out the total mileage of the lane, and you have to add stop costs, right? So each stop should have an additional charge somewhere. Most stop charges are somewhere between $50 and $100 per stop. But the more stops there are, the higher that fee goes, because there's going to be delays, in getting unloaded and whatever the case may be. And shippers typically would prefer to have a 1-pick 1-drop than to have a multi-stop load. So the cost will go up with the more picks and drops that you have, but that gives you a little bit of a framework. Figure out what the total mileage is, figure out how many stops, add some additional charges per stop, and then give yourself a little bit of a buffer, because carriers typically are going to want more money on a multi-pick or a multi-stop load. Call carriers, Michelle. That's all I can tell you. You can't use the DAT and Internet Truck Stop to determine what your rates are going to be. You need to call carriers. I said it multiple times. Okay, I'm going to keep saying it. All right, so I'm scrolling. A couple more questions, and we're going to wrap it up for today. All right, so I'm still scrolling. Give me a minute. James, you've been in the restaurant industry for 20 years. You're shifting to freight brokers. Would you recommend I focus on produce as a niche? I have knowledge of produce and refrigerated. If you have prior knowledge to a specific niche, that is definitely a good niche to explore. Now, it's not a guarantee, but I think it's a good niche to explore. The reason being is because you can speak from personal experience. It's going to accelerate your learning curve. It's going to accelerate your growth. So I think that's a very logical decision. Perfect example. If you worked at a steel mill and you were a shipping manager at a steel mill, or if you worked, whatever, if you worked at a specific shipper or you have specific knowledge of a different type of niche, then I think that is a perfect niche to start with and to develop and to grow. All right. So I think that's perfectly logical, James, because you can speak specifically to that. And you can talk about your experience as a restaurant owner and getting produce that was not fresh and getting damaged produce from carriers and the hassle associated with that. You can bring a totally different perspective to that conversation that most brokers can't, because you owned a restaurant for 20 years. Okay. And you bought produce, right? And you bought a lot of produce. Okay. So that helps. Hope that helps. Yes, Patrick, we're always adding to the training. As brokerage evolves, we continue to evolve. So we're adding new training videos and updating articles all the time. Back soliciting of freight. JD asks, how do you deal with people back soliciting freight? The only thing you can do with back solicitation is to add a no back solicitation clause to your broker carrier agreement. Make it a stiff penalty in the event that they do back solicit you. And then at that point, that's all you can really do, right? There isn't that much you can really do other than over deliver, under promise and over deliver with your shippers and pay your carriers on time. Develop a strong relationship with your shipper and a strong relationship with the carrier, and they'll never back solicit you. I can tell you that in the 17 years I've been in brokerage, right? Well, I sold my brokerage in 2016. So let's call it from 2003. So the 13 years I owned my brokerage, okay? I can tell you that in 13 years, and after doing over $200 million as a freight broker, I can only remember a half a dozen times in that entire time that our freight was back solicited. Okay. Now there may have been more, but those are the ones I know about. And we had really strong relationships with our shippers. So the key to not getting back solicited is to have a strong relationship with your shipper and a strong relationship with your carrier, and neither will want to jeopardize that relationship. And so that's the key to success. You can always add that no back solicitation clause in there. We had it. And it did help. There was times when somebody back solicited, and then we called them on it. We called the carrier on it, and they said, listen, we're sorry. And they totally stopped doing business with them. There was other times when they didn't, but we had a strong relationship with the shipper, and ultimately we didn't lose any business out of it. So I hope that helps. All right, guys. So that's going to wrap it up for today. It's 1:00. We've been here for an hour. For those of you that are joining me for the first time, if you're curious about becoming a freight broker, check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. We offer a 1-year gold membership, also a lifetime access, lifetime support membership, which is our platinum membership. Been in business for over a decade, trained over 8,000 students. And we look forward to helping you start and launch your grow your business, just like we have a bunch of other students that we've highlighted in some of these interviews. I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you like it if it's on Facebook or it's on YouTube. If you didn't share the stream, at least like the stream. Let everybody know. I determine week to week whether I'm going to do the next week's lives based upon the engagement that I get on these free trainings, okay? So if the training that I gave you today was valuable, if the Q&A was valuable, if the giveaway was valuable, make sure you like, comment, and share the stream. That's what I look for. Again, these are completely free trainings. There are tons of other things I could be doing, but I love doing these trainings as long as you guys are engaged. So from week to week, I look at the engagement. If the engagement drops, there's a good chance that I'm going to discontinue these trainings and do something else. Okay. I really appreciate you guys being here. I know your time is valuable. I'm going to wrap it up for today. Check out freightbrokerbootcamp.com. 60-day, 100% money back guarantee. We'll talk to you soon. See you next week, Monday at noon for another Freight Broker Bootcamp Live.